good afternoon. I'm Fitzpatrick, Head of Global E-Commerce at First Data. And it's a real privilege and an honor for me today to get the opportunity to attend your conference, your inaugural conference on retail, and digital commerce and e-commerce. So I'd like to, in general, thank you for the kind welcome I've had. Thank you for welcoming me to your country. It's a beautiful country. It's only my second trip here. It reminds me very much of where I've come from. And as you can tell, perhaps from my accent, it's Vegas. And that's not the truth, really. It's Ireland, right? So I was born in Ireland, I live in Ireland, and I run our global e-commerce business unit from Ireland today, a country that has many similarities with Greece that I recognize. So thank you very much for your welcome. Maybe before I start, I'm not sure how many of you here today have heard of First Data. So maybe just to help me orientate myself, if you could give me a quick show of hands if you already know our firm. Okay, we got a few. Maybe we do another show of hands for those of you who know McDonald's. All right, everybody knows McDonald's. So when I think of e-commerce and I think of First Data and I think of McDonald's as an example, I think First Data is as relevant or perhaps more relevant to households around the world than McDonald's. So we're a very, very large organization and we do many things. So by way of a very quick introduction, just to give you a sense of scale of our business, I won't read all the details on the slide, but essentially our company provides technology services to financial institutions, to banks, to some of the largest companies in the world, to the shoe shop on the corner street. So we provide a technology environment for companies all over the world to trade. And when we combine the scale of First Data and where we operate for customers in over 118 countries. And when we combine all of that, our organization is an extremely relevant business. And in my business unit in e-commerce, we process just over 28% of global e-commerce transactions every day. And yet, everywhere I go in the world and talk about our business, I get the very same reaction. Not very many people know our firm in the household. So we're very much like a brand collaborator. We architect, we work with organizations to try and figure out, how best can we, improve how we live, how best can we bring digital commerce to countries, to businesses, to consumers all over the world. And when I think of e-commerce, and when First Data thinks of e-commerce, one of the examples I like to use, and I rarely get a right answer, so I'll ask the question today. And we all use the iPhone. So when I think of the iPhone and its impact on my life, or a smartphone and its impact on our life, it's phenomenal. We all know it. We live it every day. One of the questions I ask, because I remember it very well myself, is what the most popular app we used to use 10 years ago. I remember what one I used. Now, if you just think about the most popular app we used 10 years ago versus the face of the app today, it'll give you a sense of how much the app market has changed. So I'll offer out for one answer. Does anybody know what the most popular app was 10 years ago? No, it wasn't SMS. Calendar. No, Facebook. Thank you for playing. It wasn't Facebook either. I'll take you out of your misery. Zip. There was no app 10 years ago. The iPhone came in 2007, less than 10 years ago. And look at how our lives have changed, right? Look at how our lives have changed. And that's how we think about e-commerce in First Data. We don't think of it as a payments engine, a payments vehicle. It is all of those things. But it is about how people live. Right? We're in the digital space. Look at how aviation has transformed itself by way of a customer experience. You open your passport when you're just about to get on at the gate. I remember the days where we had grease-proof paper in the little boarding card. and we had to do a whole host of things to buy a ticket before we would travel. So what that is, it's kind of a life, it's an obliteration of how we live. And even in a flat economy or a regressing economy, what we're seeing in First Data is a significant material shift around the world in favor of digital commerce. So what that tells me and what that tells our firm is when we invest in digital commerce, our business can grow like an inelastic line. So when you think of e-commerce, or when we think of it around the world, and you think of some of the more mature markets like the United States, more mature than others, it's growing now at a very slow rate of 14% year over year. Imagine what it would be like for you if your business was growing at 14% year over year. How cool would that be? EMEA is equally slowed down a little bit. It's at 16% year over year. The APAC region, 18% year over year, with different pockets in different countries, different locations. China, of course, we've all known the Chinese story, it's about 40% year over year. So you have different economies growing at different rates, but what is consistent around the world, LATAM is about 22% year over year. So when you think of a global community, all of a sudden, you think much broader than the borders of Greece. And when I listened into the conversations this morning, it very much reminded me of the networking sessions I've attended in Ireland over the last 10 years. It nearly could be a mirror image of the sessions that I have sat in on over the last 10 years in Ireland. Ireland is tiny, tiny, tiny. It's a little rock in the middle of the Atlantic with just over 4 million people on it. So if you look left or right, you're going to fall into the sea. You have to trade globally in order to grow your business. It's been a very difficult journey, and I hear a lot of the sentiment this morning about frustration, anger, disappointment. I even read in one of the questions, I think, on the e-commerce section, it said, how do we fight the global e-commerce something? How do we fight? Fight is such a negative word. And my kind of encouragement would be, how do you embrace it? How do you get in front of it? How do you champion it in order to take your business globally? Let me give you, I used to be a merchant actually. I used to be an e-commerce merchant in many years ago. And I remember we were trying to sit around, literally trying to figure out how cool it would be if you could take credit card on the internet. That'd be a cool idea. And now, of course, we trade that way, but not everywhere. So imagine a company that you were able to connect to once, a single API integration, just once. You were able to contract with once, and you were able to digitally present your goods and services to over 157 currencies around the world. In other words, consumers around the world. Imagine a company, you'd really love to work with an organization like that. Essentially, that's what First Data is. We're an organization that enables that commerce. Believe me, it's a labyrinth when you're trading around the world with regulation, know your customer, anti-money laundering, anti-terrorist financing, all of these components that are very important, data protection, data security, all of these elements. So what we've built in First Data is a true global environment to enable digital commerce. And I suppose we work by the whiteboard. So sitting with our banking partners, sitting with merchants directly, we collaborate with everybody to figure out what is the best way to help people change their life, help innovators and entrepreneurs change lives around the world. From the days of barter, money is back and forth, whether it's a bag of pepper, whether it's a digital currency or cash. The common denominator is trade, and the only thing that's changing is how we live. So when you move to the internet, e-commerce, mobile commerce, u-commerce, we see it as one relationship. A merchant selling to a consumer. It doesn't really matter about the channel. You'd like to welcome somebody physically over the threshold. You would like maybe to sell them something on the internet. Maybe they want a repeat order on their mobile phone afterward. But that fusion, that kind of fusion of all of those channels essentially comes together to give one relationship. And that's the difference between really winning and, I suppose, just bobbling along. So that's what we do at First Data. The other interesting thing about trading online that we've noticed is different cultures, customs, experience exist all over the world. So the US, the UK, France, Ireland, very similar. Most people trade with a card when they trade on the internet. And then of course there are other payment types that people use in different parts of the world. And the model we've built, this is just an illustrative example. You have all the pays, the Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Alipay, Android Pay, you've got all the pays enabled. There are hundreds of payment types enabled all over the world in e-commerce. But imagine you click the drop-down menu to say, please pay now, and you have 160 or 180 payment types listed. It becomes very confusing and you'll probably abandon the page. So what you need to do, we believe, is to pick what makes best sense for the people that you're selling to and where they are. So what are the right payment types in the right location? So there's so many things in e-commerce that I think can affect your business. Payments is one component. Attracting something to your digital store on a mobile device, on a web store, this costs a lot of money. It's a significantly different challenge to try and convert that visitor to a paying customer. And that's the same all over the world. How can I do it? Internet shoppers sometimes, research on the internet only, and they maybe shop in a physical store. I don't believe e-commerce is ever going to replace physical shopping. I don't believe e-commerce is an extension of physical shopping. It is a component in itself. There are many pure-play e-commerce companies that are emerging every day. Small firms introducing themselves to the internet by accessing a global community of people. So at First Data, we have a true global reach. We have a whole host of different tools in place, from hosted paid page to different tools and techniques around 3D Secure, which is an extremely frustrating experience. I hate it, by the way. I think it's just very frustrating. But what we have in First Data is proximity. We're a member of Visa and MasterCard. We have direct relations with the European Commission. We use that voice to actually architect new outputs. One-click checkout experience that a very large firm in the world that you may know, beginning with A, that I won't mention, we've built that solution for them. Hosting this information so that when repeat orders come back to your site, that it is all about the experience. I'd like to buy it now. Click, and it's done. 3D Secure steps in the way of that. It has its place, perhaps, for very high valued goods. Maybe I want to know my customer beyond 3D Secure. Maybe I want to see his passport. Maybe I want to retina scan the guy if I'm selling him a high valued car on the internet. But if I'm selling something that we all shop for every day, 3D Secure can be very difficult. So how do I work with the card schemes to architect seamless checkout experience? And I tried just to share in this 10 minutes just, I suppose, the philosophy and how we think in First Data. We've got 24,000 people are there that's employed in our company right around the world. Here in Greece, we've about 1,400 people employed in our business on the issuing side and acquiring, payments, processing. So if I leave you with one ask, it would be this. If you're trying to grow your business, if you're trying to think digital, if you're trying to expand beyond Greece, which I would encourage everybody to do, by the way, get in the game and be a part of it. Do one thing, just think First Data. Think First Data and ask yourself, maybe this company has very cool features and tools that are in certain markets around the world. They may not be in Greece today. Could that be something that might help you in your business as you consider expanding around the world? That's what I would ask you to do as you orientate yourself in the new digital space. But finally, just to congratulate you on what you've done. I recognize so many things in Greece from my own hometown. I genuinely love being here, and thanks so much for the kind welcome that you've all given me today. So, thank you very much.